For years I'd heard about Turkmenistan, this post-Soviet dystopia that had fallen into the hands of this wild and eccentric dictator who then pretty much turned the place into his own playground. There's very little information out there, but I'd heard stories of the place characterized as this like absurdist Disneyland, centered all around his personality cult. I mean, bizarre laws, golden statues, even his own holy book. The kind of people who visit Turkmenistan are usually government officials looking for natural resources, and French and Turkish businessmen hoping to grab a piece of the pie. Others are concerned because of the lack of civil liberties and human rights issues. We wanted to go because we wanted to see just how much of this completely alternate reality we could find and take that back and show our friends. We knew it was going to be a huge gamble just getting there and a real adventure, but Billy had the idea to film this thing, so we started figuring out how the hell we were going to get in. Turkmenistan is notoriously one of the most difficult places to visit as a tourist. After contacting numerous state-sponsored travel groups and hitting dead ends, we started questioning whether the country even had reliable internet. Finally, I started Skype calling the Ministry of Tourism and Sport and speaking in Russian to make sure that we could get ourselves the mandatory state guide that would meet us when we arrived. To actually get to Turkmenistan, which is surrounded by Afghanistan, Iran, and a couple of other crazy stans, you can either fly from one or two places in the Middle East or cross the Caspian Sea by boat, if you're daring enough. For that, there's no schedule, there's no set journey time, you can be stuck out there for days, and these boats are essentially industrial cargo ships that were Soviet shitboxes even 20 years ago.
The lady's yelling at us, so we gotta move. But,
We fly into Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, which is also known as the Dubai of the Caucasus, to meet our fixer Samir, who tells us immediately upon our arrival, "You've chosen to go to Baghdad on holiday." Usually a fucking pro, even he breaks a sweat trying to hustle our passports through the Turkmen embassy and get us onto the ferry. This is our room. We made it. We made it for now. Let's see when we can take off from this baby, but this is where we are in Baku. Next stop, Turkmenbashi. Once on board, we find the captain and his crew, mostly a bunch of kids, and set off getting drunk on vodka and exchanging crazy stories. We learned that nobody had seen or spoken to their Turkmen neighbors and friends since President Sapar Murat Niyazov, the self-proclaimed Turkmenbashi, or leader of all Turkmen, had assumed power after the fall of the Soviet Union. Known as one of the world's most totalitarian despots, his death several years ago didn't really pave way for an open-door policy. And after sailing 26 hours, it's now his successor's face that watches us leave the ship and civilization behind. After disembarking, we start to get nervous. I mean, we're waiting to get through immigration, our guide hasn't turned up, we have no way of contacting him, and we see military-clad customs officers picking through every piece of luggage ahead of us. Filming is illegal, as well as any type of negative portrayal of the Turkmen state or policies. Turkmenistan actually has the second worst press freedom conditions in the world, right behind North Korea. And when President Niyazov held power, each public broadcast began with a pledge that the presenter's tongue would shrivel if he slanders the country, flag, or president. We have this oh shit moment, nervous that they're going to find all our equipment, until finally our guide turns up and shuffles us through immigration. We were expecting this like tough as nails ex-Soviet brute, but Aziz was a really young guy and he was cool as hell. I mean, within a few hours we were having chicken fights in the hotel pool and singing karaoke at this desolate international resort town. In the next few days, we make our way to see one of the most astounding things in all of Turkmenistan. The weather outside is 120 degrees, so 50 Celsius, and we'd actually read that only the insane or deeply misfortunate find themselves here in the hottest months of July and August. So we drive all day through the desert, stopping at a couple of ancient heritage sites, and teaching our guide the dirtiest words we know.
Smack our face.
Until finally by nightfall we start to see just what we're in for. Nicknamed the Gates of Hell, this flaming gas crater is the size of a football field, and it's been burning since the 1950s, when a bunch of shoddy Soviet engineers tried to drill for gas. After they fucked the project, they thought it was best to set it on fire, believing it would burn for just a few days. It's been over 60 years now, and its size continues to grow. Completely unattended with no fencing or warnings around it, this massive sinkhole in the middle of the desert is where we camped for the night. Blown away by how ridiculous the previous night had been, we had no idea how far the rabbit hole went until we entered the capital city, Ashgabat. This place looked like 10,000 wedding cakes. I mean, the entire city is made of Italian marble and gold, with endless statues, fountains, and architectural oddities, right in the middle of the desert. It felt like we'd entered the Twilight Zone. We spent a few days checking out the sights. The President's Museum of Gifts, a page taken straight from Kim Jong-il's book. The Arch of Neutrality, featuring a life-size golden statue of President Niyazov that turns throughout the day to always face the sun. And the world's largest indoor Ferris wheel. We also visited where Turkmenbashi, the original dictator, is buried, which happens to be inside one of Central Asia's largest mosques, one that he built for himself. They nearly cut our hands off when they caught us filming here. Always empty, the walls feature passages from the Ruhnama, a cultish, self-messianic text that Niyazov made compulsory reading in schools and before common things like a driver's exam. More fun facts include his renaming of months after members of his family and outlawing ballet.
Гламурная красотка, до тебя мне далеко. Ты играешь сердцем ловко, очень ловко, как никто.
On our last day, we went to Turkmenistan's very own Disneyland. Most of the rides looked pretty broken and dangerous, but we said, fuck it, what better place to die. That night, we went to an underground nightclub filled with prostitutes and foreign diplomats. They tried to give us the scoop on what was really going on. That our guide was spying on us, that our hotel rooms were bugged, and that oil and gas were behind all of the state's oppressive policies. We left Turkmenistan feeling hypnotized, awestruck, baffled, just completely hungover from this bizarre acid trip. If you like acid, go to Turkmenistan.
I'm ready.